Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible, and we are going to be looking at 6 brand new releases for you guys to watch and stream today. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with the movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. I also want to touch on the availability of these titles, as I have personally went to each one of the services and verified that these movies are available. And if you are having trouble seeing them, there is probably one of 2 reasons. One, you might be region locked. And the other reason is if you are using any of the alternative media sites or any of the free stuff, a lot of these movies just came out yesterday, so they probably really won't show up on those sites for a couple days. And lastly, this is just a preview. These are not reviews and recommendations. As always, I've added chapters and timestamps in the description, so if you don't like any of my trailer reactions or any of the movies I've picked, you're always free to skip to the next one. And if you did want some reviews and recommendations, then I suggest you watch my I guess it's now my new movie review series, my You Should Watch series, or any of my movie list series. This here is just a little something for the diehards like me that are always looking for something new to watch. And with that, let's get right to some new movies. The first movie we're going to take a look at this week is a horror thriller named The Haunted Apartment, Miss K. And this movie's available on Netflix. 4 days. Sunset. That was the only time left for those who had entered room 610. In a matter of 4 days, they would all be dead. It is directed by Gunter Sorharjanto. Now, I know that if I was cast as a character in a horror movie, I would be the butcher of foreign names, but after watching the trailer for Haunted Apartment, this one looks like a decent to good supernatural curse horror. Right off the bat, it seems like it could deliver us some good creeps and scares. The trailer does give us a few eerie moments with this mother-daughter duo that does look unsettling, and I did find that it just had a really creepy setting as well. Now, as for gore, it doesn't show a ton in the trailer, but the one moment it does show us is pretty visceral. We literally get to see somebody ripped apart with blood everywhere. And if that's just a taste of the things to come, I'm sure that this one's going to be a pretty gory ride. Production-wise, it looks pretty high-end and the acting seems solid. And from what we got, we didn't really get a ton of emotion acting, but from what I saw, I liked. Now, the premise for this one is a little bit run-of-the-mill. You get that 7 days kind of Ring curse vibe, but I do think it comes with a fresh coat of paint. Now, instead of like The Ring where you get this curse from watching a tape, you kind of get it upon entering a room. And the mother-daughter duo who's creepy does give a kind of newish angle that did keep me interested. Now, one thing I really do enjoy about Asian horrors, even though sometimes the story does seem a little bit formulaic, just because it does kind of center more around like evil spirits and urban legends and the like, but they always manage to just bring back that classic horror energy, where it's just like evil spirits and people flying across the room and demons and blood, and it just kind of embodies that good old-fashioned horror, and I do like that. Now, the only downside to this film is after checking it out on Netflix, I did notice that it was subtitled and you don't have an option for English dialogue, and I know that that's a deal breaker for some, not really for me, but I know it's a deal breaker for some and something to note. Now, The Haunted Apartment, Miss K looks like it's got some legit scares and a really good dose of gore. So I think this one's going to earn a regular to higher priority on my watch list.
Lantai 6 tidak dipasarkan. Lantai itu banyak kerusakan. Takutnya berbahaya, jadi kami tutup dan dilarang untuk masuk.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a straight horror named The Severed Son. And this movie is available on Apple TV and Google Play. Magpie lives in an isolated church community ruled over by her father, the pastor. When a man is murdered, paranoia sets in and people start to whisper about a strange beast that lives in the forest. It is directed by Dean Puckett. Okay, after watching the trailer for The Severed Son, this one looks like it could be a decent to good folk horror. Now, it seems like it'll bring some light creeps and scares because we do get some glimpses of some supernatural and darker horror elements, which do hint at a spooky atmosphere and setting, even though it's not going full throttle on terror. And when it comes to the gore, it definitely looks like there's going to be blood, and a lot of it. Now, the trailer hints at some pretty brutal moments and limb decapitations, so I have high hopes that this one's going to bring some solid gore elements. I also thought that production-wise the film looked good, because we do get some glimpses of the creature, which is creepy, but does kind of look a little bit CGI. But it is such a quick shot that it's just hard to judge. But still, it didn't look awful. The acting in the trailer also comes across as strong and emotive and fits the period well. Story-wise, this could offer some familiar folk horror beats with a little bit of a twist. And it could be pretty interesting, it really just depends how they execute it. Now, Severed Son looks like a bloody folk horror with potential for some light creeps and scares. It's not shooting to the tippy top of my list, but it is going to get a regular to higher spot on my watch list.
You have lost a husband and a father, but as family, we must set an example.
For all have sinned.
All have sinned.
We are conceived, born into this fallen world.
All have sinned. All have sinned. All have sinned. All have sinned.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is an action horror named A Breed Apart. And this movie's available on Apple TV and Google Play. A rebel seeking abandoned dogs on a remote island finds herself in a harrowing situation filled with terror and adrenaline-fueled chaos. It is directed by Griff and Nathan First. Okay, so after watching the trailer for A Breed Apart, this looks like a fun, bloody animal horror. Even though the film doesn't seem like it's aiming for supernatural creeps and scares, it does look like it's going to give us some great action tension and some close call moments. Now, right from the chaos these dogs unleash in the trailer, we know that we're in for some solid gore. We see scenes of people getting ripped apart, we see gnarly dog bites, and we even see some pretty gross images of these dogs unfortunately meeting their end. It looks like we're going to get fast-paced, bloody, brutal action, and I'm here for it. Now, production-wise, the film feels big budget. The action sequences actually look solid with some sharp cinematography. The cast for this one also seems pretty good because you get a good circle of friends vibe and none of the characters feel like a throwaway. For the cast, you get Hayden Panettiere, you get Virginia Garner, and Grace Caroline Curry, so it is a pretty stacked lineup. But I'm really curious to see how Troy Gentile plays it, especially in a horror movie, because I do like his acting and I thought he was funny and I was into him back when I watched the show, The Goldbergs. Now, the premise for this one, I mean, it's fine. It's nothing really compelling, but it does set the stage for the chaos that is about to ensue in this film, and I think that's all it really needs to do. All in all, A Breed Apart looks like a bloody, chaotic action horror flick. The kind that you really just throw on when you want to see some intense mayhem. And when I'm in the mood for something mindless and bloody, this one will have a regular spot on my watch list.
15 years ago, this island became a Hollywood horror story. The film was never finished because the animal trainers just vanished. We are here to help rescue the free-roaming dogs. Whoever bags the most tail waggers will be winning this entire island.
You think I'm gonna play wild dog catcher in that fucking jungle?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a straight horror named Solitude. And this movie's available on Apple TV, Google Play, and Prime Video.
I'm gonna die out here!
A famous social media survivalist is cast for a popular television series about surviving in solitude. But survival turns to despair when she discovers a supernatural entity's presence. It is directed by Jeremy W. Brown and Mick Strawn. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Solitude, this one looks like a decent to good supernatural survivor horror. And when it comes to the creeps and scares, I think there might actually be some solid chills here. because this whole idea where these characters have to like live and survive alone, especially while being plagued by a supernatural entity, really gives me hope and has me holding out hope that we're going to get some good, eerie, creepy moments. Now, when it comes to the gore, the trailer just doesn't really show much, but there are characters who kind of allude to a lot of the contestants of this competition to be tapping out, and I don't know if that means that they chickened out or they vanished. Either way, just by what we're being shown, I'm not really expecting this one to be a gore fest. Next up, production-wise, this one looks better than the typical B movie with solid visuals and a decent atmosphere. That said, with these characters living alone, some of the solo monologues came off just a little bit overacted and wooden. And while it didn't feel terrible, it just didn't feel super polished. I've always really been into survival shows like Man Tracker and Survivor Man, and even Man vs. Wild before I found out that Bear Grylls was a fraud. Even here on YouTube, I'll watch things like The Outdoor Boys or anything where people just have to like survive on their wits. That's just sometimes can be like really compelling content to me. So when it comes to this kind of survival competition with dark, eerie woods and a supernatural twist, you can count me in. So Solitude doesn't look like it's going to blow me away with its performances, but there's potential for some creepy vibes and some good psychological tension. And honestly, I think that's enough to earn it a regular spot on my watch list.
As you know, you're competing against 9 other people, and your job is to outlast all of them.
9 other contestants between me and $1 million prize.
Be a little extra careful while you're out there, okay? Because there's a legend in these woods.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a horror mystery thriller named Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. And this movie's available on Prime Video. Wendy Darley strikes out in an attempt to rescue her brother Michael from the clutches of the evil Peter Pan. Along the way, she meets Tinkerbell, who will be seen taking heroin, believing that it's pixie dust. It is directed by Scott Chambers. So after watching the trailer for Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, this one looks like a solid B-movie slasher. In terms of creeps and scares, it does look like it has a couple of creepy moments, but it looks like it's more focused on jump scares, and I think that's more what this film is going for. Now, this one looks like a gory film that really leans into that B-movie slasher vibe, and the trailer is just packed with blood. I mean, it really made it clear that it's not holding back when it comes to the kills. Now, production-wise, I have to say that watching this, compared to the other kind of classic remakes, I was kind of pleasantly surprised. Like a lot of these dark classic remakes, I did find that even though this movie does have that B-movie sheen, I did find the villain pretty twisted and interesting. And not only in his look, but he just has this kind of demeanor that feels Joker-esque in a kind of way. And honestly, making young kids kind of the target of this slasher paves the way for a really dark movie. And I really find that it gives the film just this really disturbing kind of edge. Now, the acting for this one isn't going to win any awards, but it was passable, and I thought that it fit the tone of the movie. And even though the premise follows that kind of reimagining the classics type meta, I just think that there's a whole vibe in this one that really does make the movie feel like a little bit of a cut above the entries like Blood and Honey. Now, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare looks like a dark, bleak entry into this growing subgenre of reimagined, dark, public domain-free classics. And the blood and brutality alone are enough to earn this one a regular spot on my watch list.
So if you need a hand...
Wow. Who wants to come to Neverland with me?
Well, guys, last movie we're going to take a look at this week is a straight horror named The Moogai. And this movie's available on Apple TV and Google Play. A young Aboriginal couple brings home their second baby. What should be a joyous time takes a sinister turn. As the baby's mother starts seeing a malevolent spirit she is convinced is trying to take her baby. It is directed by John Bell. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Moogai, this one looks like an alright to decent supernatural horror. I like that the film is actually trying to scare us because you see some of that paranormal activity-esque creepiness with the little girl like standing stoically in doorways in the middle of the night. Overall, the film really does look like it could deliver us some good light chills. As for the gore, I just didn't really see much at all. Even though the entity itself does look a little bit gross, and there were a few small glimpses that the movie could give us some rawness, I just don't think that it's going to be like super gory or one for the gorehounds. Now, production-wise, this film does look like it has a really big budget look. And the acting itself seems solid too, like it's got some really emotionally charged moments that are pretty believable, especially for a horror with this kind of serious tone. As for the premise, you are getting kind of a traditional setup with a little bit of a twist. And while the premise itself wasn't bad and I didn't mind it, it just was nothing that really stood out to me. But with that being said, I did like the angle of both children really being affected by the entity. It injected the story with just a little bit of mystery that could really pay off in the end. So really to summarize, the Moogai looks decent overall. And hopefully with these like creepy kid moments and with this supernatural entity, we could get some genuine creeps and scares. But it definitely looks all right and like it has a good creepy potential, so I think this one's going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
Are you seeing children with white eyes? Children stolen by the Moogai. Sometimes we escape, sometimes we don't.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of brand new releases for you guys to watch and stream. I hope you like this content, and if you did find a couple of gems for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. So if I had to make a couple of picks this week, the first movie I'm going to pick is Solitude. I just think it looks like, again, it's got that really good survivalist element that I enjoyed. It looks really creepy and scary, especially kind of being out in the woods by yourself. Whatever the entity is that's stalking her, along with just whatever kind of psychological things she goes through, it just looks like it's a really good movie. I'm kind of interested in what's making the other contestants tap out and exactly what kind of trials and tribulations she's going to have to overcome to make it out there alone. I just hope that it has a really good kind of survival element mixed in it where, you know, she's trying to hunt and find things and struggle. But all that together, it looks like we could get a good and kind of intense survival movie mixed with actual creeps and scares. So that's going to be my first pick of the week. And for my second pick, I think it's going to be a little bit of a toss-up because while The Severed Son does look like kind of the better movie, I am a little bit interested in The Haunted Apartment Miss K just because it looks so bloody and I miss that kind of Ring curse vibe. So it's definitely a toss-up between those two. And for myself, I think I'm going to go with The Haunted Apartment Miss K just because this week I'm kind of in the mood to be scared. Like I feel like we haven't had some like real scares in a minute. And this film does look like it has some classical horror scares and creeps, especially with, you know, the undead entities and the curse and, you know, just the way that even they show one scene where they're sitting on the edge of the tub and the mother is like combing the daughter's hair and they turn and she's holding her head weird. So it does look like it has a lot of propensity for creeps and scares, and it does look like it's a pretty kind of gory, bloody movie. So as much as I'm going to say that The Severed Son also is a good pick, if you're kind of not into the Asian classic horror, especially with the subtitles, you might want to kind of lean towards more The Severed Son. But for me, I think I'm just going to go with the kind of scary bloodiness of The Haunted Apartment Miss K. Well, guys, that's it for me. I've got to get out of here as I have got a ton of movies to watch. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have been good and taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Okay. Hello.